All right, hey guys, Miss Firehammer here.
Mr. Sharpe here.
So we're going to kind of give you another rundown on the French Revolution. I've talked about it a bit in class, but here's another little video for you all.
Oh, here we go.
All right, so to understand the French Revolution, as I've been saying, you got to understand those three estates. So France is still at this point, even in the 700s, they still have a medieval view on their society. They've got three different estates. First estate is clergy, so like bishops, monks, priests, all those church officials that you can think of. They owned about 10% of the land. They didn't have to pay taxes, but they also provided services to people. Like they provided schools, hospitals, and other services to the people there. So they were a pretty good estate.
Yeah, I mean, that's the monasteries and that, like we talked about during the Middle Ages, is still continuing on. They did do a lot of good. They were the church, but they also possessed a lot of wealth.
Yeah. So the second estate are the nobles. Now the nobles have lost a lot of their power because Louis XVI and Louis XIV, they took over and became absolute monarchs. Therefore, the nobles can't have as much power, right? So they lost a lot of their power. They lost a little bit of their money, but they're still noble families. They still have that noble lineage in them. So they were able to get the high government jobs, um, and that kind of pissed off the like middle class men who wanted to do that.
And when she says pissed, I mean, she's like French, kind of like very mad, like very pissed off. All right, so that's a French word. All right, just in case parents are listening.
All right, so then we've got the third estate, which is 98% of the population, like literally everybody else. But it's not just poor peasants. Like we talk about the poor peasants a lot, but it's not just the poor peasants. There's also the bourgeoisie. Swear, I took French in high school. I can't pronounce this word. Anyway, they're the upper class, upper middle class people, bankers, merchants, people who've got money, but they can't quite get to the next level because they just weren't born into the right family. But then everyone else were those poor peasants that we've talked about who didn't have a lot of jobs, didn't have a lot of wealth, didn't have a lot of food, couldn't eat their 2 pounds of bread a day. It's pretty sad.
Bread is delicious.
It really is. I wish I could eat 2 pounds of bread a day.
I can.
Well. All right, so then we've got the main people of this kind of time. We've got Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. Now, Louis XVI became king in 1774, and he was not a very effective ruler. He was easily persuasive, not very intelligent, liked to do other things but rule. And then he married Marie Antoinette, who's the daughter of Maria Therese, who was the ruler of Austria. So she came to France just to kind of cement an alliance and didn't really care for politics at all. She just wanted to dress up and make her hair look nice, spend lots of money.
I think it's so delicate that the French Revolution doesn't occur if it's Louis XIV who's taking over at this time. He would have been enough of an actual ruler, maintain power, keep the country going, and just the fact that Louis XVI is so weak that it sets the stage for people to riot for the culture and the customs and the traditions to be challenged.
Yep. So here we have Louis XVI and then gorgeous Marie Antoinette. All right, so right now in France, they're kind of having a bit of a problem with their money. So the government's doing some definite deficit spending here where they're spending more than they have, which is never a good thing. Never ever spend more money than you actually have. So a lot of that money that they spent were spent on wars, like the 7 Years' Wars. They helped us out in our revolution. And then to add on to that, there's also a lot of bad harvests. So now people don't have money. The government doesn't have money. There's no food. So Louis XVI is trying to help this by hiring this guy named Jacques Necker, who tried to put in a lot of new reforms. So he reduced government spending, he reformed the government, but then he tried to have the first two estates start paying taxes, and those people did not want to start paying taxes. They kind of pushed him out of his position.
You know, and it's unfortunate because when you think about it, it makes logical sense. The country is going down, and all he was asking was for the first and second estates to pay their fair share. And they said no because of tradition, because they thought that they were an elite class that was above that kind of stuff. And another step, if they would have agreed to those taxes, maybe we don't have the French Revolution.
No.
Maybe the state says, hey, that's, you know, somewhat more equality. We can live with that. But they don't. We got closer to revolution.
All right, so Louis XVI tries to help by calling up this thing called the Estates General. It's kind of like a Congress, sort of a meeting of these representatives for each of the three states. And Louis XVI asked them to come prepared to talk about what they want him to do, what they want the government to do to help them out in their three estates. And everything's going fine. They kind of meet a little bit, and then all of a sudden, the third estate realizes they got locked out of a meeting. Now, they got locked out of the meeting because the meeting place was being cleaned, but they didn't know that. They thought they just got locked out. So they went down to the tennis court next door, and you know they were just not getting what they wanted out of these meetings with the estate general. So they came together. They decided to create a national assembly. They wanted to create a new constitution. They wanted to create a declaration. They wanted actual change. Okay, so this is just a picture of them in that tennis court coming together and calling for change. Okay, so while these people who, all the representatives of the third estate are kind of getting together, trying to get some change going on, the French people hear a rumor that troops are coming in to occupy Paris because there's some rioting going on and Louis XVI might want to send in troops to Paris. But these people don't necessarily have guns on them, and they want to arm themselves in order to be prepared if these troops actually come in. So they know where guns are, where gunpowder is, and they know that it's in the Bastille. And the Bastille is this medieval prison in the middle of Paris that holds prisoners. In the way back in the medieval time, they had cruel punishments. So they know that there's definitely going to be some guns there, going to be some gunpowder there. And they start rioting, they run in there, they start killing the guards, releasing prisoners, and it's a huge riot. They're starting to take down the Bastille, they're getting the guns, and this kind of sets the stage for the revolution. It's actually said that when the king heard about this, he asked, "Is it a revolt?" And the guy who told him said, "No, sir, it's a revolution."
It's important. I think a lot of people, the French third estate peasants, saw that Bastille as the oppression of the first two estates and the oppression of, you know, the king and their situation. And so by taking it down, it was symbolic. And like Mr. Ariel said, this led to the tone of the revolution. It is a violent act which occurs, and it kind of sets the tone for this revolution to really go anywhere they want as far as violence and killing and that. It's acceptable. And part of it is because of how it starts. It starts with the storming of a prison, killing the guards, taking guns, and they actually tore this place down almost brick by brick. And
Like,
so,
you have to be that angry to tear a whole building down brick by brick.
with your bare hands.
All right, so we're going to talk about the National Assembly. So they start getting a lot more power, and they're in power from 1789 to 1791. Now, they come together and they create this Declaration of the Rights of Men and Citizens. And it looks a lot like our Declaration. Now, they use ideas from our Declaration. They use Enlightenment ideals. We've got people like Lafayette, who helped us fight in our revolution, write it. We also have Thomas Jefferson help them to write their declarations. That's why it looks a lot like ours. All right, basically calling for all male citizens to be equal, for equality, for different economic stability, and that's what it looks like, actually. Really nice and pretty and all. Yeah. Yeah, we'll keep going. There we go. So one of the things that happens that really pushed the National Assembly forward and into more power was this Women's March for Bread. So these women still don't have bread for their kids, and they're getting really angry about it. And they're really angry mostly at Marie Antoinette for her spending. She's eating a lot. She is spending a lot of money on clothes and her hair, and they're done. Okay? So they march over to Versailles, which is not actually very far away from Paris. They rush into Versailles. They seek out the royal family, And if they had found them, probably would have killed them. That's how angry these women were. And they basically forced the royal family to move to Paris. In reality, the royal family was basically taken prisoner and put in Paris to be watched. All right, I think we'll do one more slide and then we'll have another one for you guys on this. So the National Assembly also created a constitution, and they created a legislative branch, which basically, obviously, as our legislative branch does, create laws, said that only tax-paying men could vote, and they also tore down the Catholic Church. They brought the Catholic Church under government control. So at this point, Louis XVI has officially been reduced to a limited monarchy. He does not have absolute power. The National Assembly does. All right, we'll see you guys in a couple minutes here if you watch our next one.
You're not listening.